Don't act too close to me tonight. People here don't know I'm dating you. Daniel said it before his company awards gala. Like he was asking me not to spill wine on the carpet. Then, 10 minutes later, he moved my seat from the front table beside him to the back corner near the kitchen doors. He sat under the lights. I sat near the swinging service entrance. He smiled for photos, like he had arrived single, and I watched him from the shadows for exactly 30 minutes before I stood up and left. My name is Natalie Brooks. I was 31 when I learned that sometimes the most humiliating place in a room is not the back table. Sometimes it is the place beside someone who does not want anyone to know you belong there. Daniel Hayes was 29. Charming in the kind of practiced way that made strangers feel chosen. We had been together for 18 months. We met through a weekend hiking group, introduced by a mutual friend who said, "You two are both too serious for your own good. Maybe you'll cancel each other out." At first, I thought she was right. Daniel was sharp, ambitious, funny when he forgot to perform. He worked in corporate consulting, surrounded by people who spoke in polished phrases about quarterly growth and leadership optics. I worked in logistics management. My job was steady, demanding, and not glamorous. I knew how to keep warehouses moving and schedules from collapsing. Daniel knew how to walk into a room and make everyone believe he had already won. For the first 6 months, we were easy. Dinners after work, weekend trips, lazy Sundays with takeout containers on my coffee table. He met my friends. I met his close friends. He knew my sister Claire by name. I knew my best friend. Dylan hated olives. I knew I drank coffee, even when I claimed I was trying to quit. But there was one locked door in his life: work. He never invited me to office happy hours. Never brought me to team dinners. Never mentioned me in stories where his colleagues were present. When I asked, he would smile and say, "Work is work. I keep it professional." I believed him because I wanted to. The first crack came in October. His company hosted a rooftop networking mixer downtown. And at first, Daniel asked if I wanted to come. 2 days before the event, he texted, "Actually, maybe skip this one. It's mostly internal politics." You'd be bored. I let it go. A week later, I saw the photos. Daniel had posted them publicly. There he was under string lights, his arm around Vanessa Cole, his team lead. She was beautiful, confident, camera ready. In every picture, they stood close enough that people in the comments joked about power couple energy. When I asked about it, Daniel laughed. "That's Vanessa. We work together. It's nothing. You didn't want me there." I said, "Because you don't know anyone. It would have been awkward." "For who?" He did not answer fast enough. By December, his company announced the annual Gala black tie, awards ceremony, dinner, speeches, photo, the whole polished performance. Daniel told me over coffee one Saturday morning. "It's formal," he said. "Like really formal." "I can do formal?" He smiled, but there was a tightness around his mouth. "Good. Just don't expect it to be super social. It's a work thing." "You want me to go?" "Right. Of course," he said. "I want you there." But it sounded rehearsed. The gala was scheduled for January 18th. 2 weeks before it, Daniel started giving me rules. Don't talk too much. Don't drink too much. Don't make jokes unless I was sure they would land. And then the one that made my stomach drop: don't act too close to me. People there don't know I'm dating anyone. I stared at him. You've been at this company for 3 years. How do they not know? I keep my personal life private. Private, I repeated. Or hidden. His eyes flicked away. It's just easier. Easier for who? He changed the subject. The week before the gala, he became restless. He checked his phone constantly, rehearsed remarks in the mirror, and talked about the team leadership award he was nominated for, like it was a door that could change his life. I wanted to be proud of him. Instead, I started feeling like evidence he needed to conceal. On Monday, he asked what I planned to wear. Black dress. I said, simple? Formal? He frowned. Do you have something navy? Navy. Less obvious. I laughed once, because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. That night, he sent me links to dresses that were elegant, but plain. Soft colors. Clean lines. Nothing dramatic. Nothing memorable. When I called him out on it, he said, I just want you to feel comfortable. But the word he used later was worse. You'll blend right in. Blend. On Thursday, the seating chart went live on the event app. I opened it while sitting at my desk during lunch. Table 1. Seat 4. Natalie Brooks. Right beside Daniel Hayes. For one small second, I felt stupid for doubting him. I texted him. Looks like we're sitting together. He replied an hour later. I'll double-check that. Might need to shift a few people around for work reasons. Work reasons. I was beginning to hate that phrase. On the night of the gala, Daniel arrived at my apartment already half-dressed. Adjusting his cufflinks in my hallway mirror, he looked stunning in a black tuxedo. The kind of handsome that made people forgive arrogance and call it confidence. You look beautiful, he said when I stepped out. I wanted to believe he meant it, but his eyes moved over me like he was checking for mistakes. We arrived at the hotel ballroom at 5:20 p.m. Chandeliers glowed overhead. Staff adjusted centerpieces. Microphones were being tested on stage. The room smelled like roses, polished wood, and expensive nerves. Daniel walked in, like the night belonged to him. I followed beside him until he slowed near the entrance, leaned toward me, and said quietly, Don't act too close to me tonight. People here don't know I'm dating you. The room seemed to tilt. I'm your girlfriend, I said. I'm not a scandal. His jaw tightened. Natalie, please. I need tonight to go smoothly. I looked past him, at the seating chart near the ballroom doors. My name was still there. Table 1. Seat 4. I pointed to it. Then why am I sitting beside you? Daniel inhaled, slowly. I'm going to fix that. Fix it. You'll be more comfortable somewhere else. I'm comfortable beside you. His expression flickered. For a second, I thought shame might win. Then Vanessa walked into the ballroom with 2 other colleagues, laughing, radiant, already waving Daniel over. His face changed. Trust me, he said. Then he walked to the event coordinator, spoke in a low voice, and gestured toward the chart. Then toward me, then back to the chart. The coordinator nodded. Daniel returned with a smile, so fake it hurt to look at. All set. All set for what? Your new seat. Table 12. It's closer to the bar. You'll have more space. Table 12 was in the back corner near the kitchen doors, where the lights were dimmer, where nobody important would look twice. I said his name quietly. Daniel. He glanced over his shoulder again. Please, he whispered. Just go with it. For me. And that was when I understood. He was not asking me to support him. He was asking me to disappear. So I walked to table 12 and sat down. The ballroom filled quickly after that. B6:45 p.m. Nearly every seat was occupied. Crystal glasses reflected the chandelier light. Servers moved between tables, carrying trays of champagne. The room buzzed with ambition disguised as celebration. From table 12, I had a perfect view of table 1. That felt intentional somehow. Daniel sat in the center of his team like a politician on election night. Vanessa was on his right. Another colleague, a woman named Brianna, sat on his left. Every few minutes, someone stopped to greet them, shake hands, or take photos. Daniel smiled so much that night. My cheeks hurt just watching him. Not once did he look toward the back of the room. Not once did he wonder how I was doing. At my table sat a couple from accounting. A quiet man from IT, who spent most of the evening staring at his phone, and a middle-aged woman who introduced herself as someone's older sister. Everyone was polite. No one knew who I was. No one knew why I was there. I wasn't Daniel's partner in that room. I was excess luggage. The realization settled slowly and painfully. 18 months together. 18 months of dinners, vacations, future plans, conversations about apartments and shared bank accounts, and where we might be in 5 years. Yet, somehow, the people who spent 40 hours a week with him didn't even know I existed. The lights dimmed. The awards ceremony began. A video montage played across giant screens. Executives gave speeches about leadership, innovation, and teamwork. I barely heard any of it. My attention kept drifting back to Daniel. He looked relaxed now, relieved, as if moving me had solved a problem. At szepte 30. M. The category for team leadership excellence was announced. Daniel's category. The presenter opened an envelope. The room grew quiet. My chest tightened, despite everything. I wanted him to win. That was the ridiculous part. Even after what he'd done, some part of me still wanted good things for him. The winner's name was announced. It wasn't Daniel. For a split second, disappointment flashed across his face. Then it disappeared behind a practiced smile. He stood and applauded. Everyone around him applauded too. The cameras caught his reaction. To anyone watching, he looked gracious, professional, mature. But from where I sat, I noticed the tension in his jaw, the stiffness in his shoulders, the way his fingers squeezed the stem of his wine glass. The award mattered more than he wanted people to know. Dinner service began shortly afterward. Servers delivered plates. Wine was poured. Conversations grew louder. People relaxed. The formal masks loosened. I expected Daniel to eventually come find me. Maybe introduce me to someone. Maybe sit with me for a few minutes. Maybe act like I mattered. He never did. Instead, I watched him pose for more photos. I watched Vanessa lean toward him during conversations. I watched him laugh. I watched him exist in a version of his life that apparently had no room for me. B85 Something inside me became very calm. Not angry, not emotional, just clear. The woman from accounting glanced up as I stood. Heading out, she asked, "Yeah, everything okay?" I looked toward table 1. Daniel was laughing at something Vanessa had said. He looked happier than he had all week. Then I looked back at the woman. "Yeah," I said. "Everything's finally clear." She seemed confused. I smiled politely. "Have a good night." "You too." I walked away from table 12, past table 10, past table 8, past table 6. The ballroom lights reflected against the polished floor. Music floated through the speakers. People continued talking and laughing. No one noticed me leaving. When I reached table 1, I slowed for half a second. Daniel's back was facing me. He had no idea I was there. No idea I was about to walk out of his life. No idea that the choice he'd made an hour earlier had consequences he couldn't charm his way out of. I could have stopped, could have tapped his shoulder, could have demanded an explanation, could have created a scene. Part of me even wanted to, but public humiliation had already happened. I wasn't going to give him a public breakup too. So I kept walking, straight through the ballroom, through the double doors, into the hotel hallway. The silence hit immediately. No music, no applause, no forced smiles, just the quiet hum of the building's air conditioning. For the first time all evening, I could hear my own thoughts. I pressed the elevator button, waited, stepped inside. The doors closed, and somehow that felt symbolic. One chapter ending, another beginning. By the time I reached the parking garage, my breathing was steady. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't crying. That surprised me. I had expected heartbreak. Instead, I felt something closer to relief, like I'd finally stopped carrying something heavy. I unlocked my car and climbed inside. The dashboard clock read 8:12 p.m. I started the engine. At 8:14 m. My phone rang. Daniel. I stared at the screen, then let it ring. A minute later, he called again. I ignored that one too. Then another, and another, and another. B8:18 p.m. There were 5 missed calls. The voicemails began immediately afterward. I sat in the driver's seat listening. The first voicemail was controlled. Natalie, hey. Where are you? Someone said you left. Call me back. Confused. Not worried. Just inconvenienced. The second came 30 seconds later. Seriously. Where did you go? People are asking questions. Call me. A sharper tone, pressure creeping in. The third voicemail was longer. Okay. I get it. You're upset. But can we please talk? I didn't mean for it to come across that way. Just come back and let me explain. His voice cracked slightly. For the first time, panic appeared. The fourth voicemail sounded completely different. Please answer. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I just didn't want people making assumptions. It wasn't about you. Please call me back. He was crying, actual tears. The fifth voicemail barely made sense. Natalie. Please. Everyone keeps asking where you are. I told them you weren't feeling well. I don't think they believe me. Please answer. I need you to answer. Need. Interesting word. He hadn't needed me beside him, but now he needed me to help maintain the story. I listened to every voicemail once. Then I deleted them. All 5. One after another. The screen went blank. The messages disappeared. Just like 18 months of excuses suddenly felt meaningless. I put the car into reverse, pulled out of the parking space, and drove home. The city lights blurred past my windshield. At a red light, I remembered something Claire once told me after a terrible college breakup. When someone keeps asking you to be smaller, she'd said, eventually, you'll disappear. At the time, I thought she was being dramatic. Now I understood. The gala hadn't started that night. It had started months earlier, with every invitation withdrawn, every introduction avoided, every conversation redirected, every moment I was asked to blend in. Tonight had simply been the first time Daniel stopped pretending, and maybe that was the gift hidden inside the humiliation. He had finally shown me exactly where I stood. Not beside him, not with him, behind him, hidden, temporary, convenient. The farther I drove from the hotel, the lighter I felt. At 8:15 p.m. I walked into my apartment, turned on a lamp, dropped my keys on the counter, and finally looked at my phone. 23 unread texts. Every single one. From Daniel. Where are you? Please call me. I'm freaking out. Everyone's asking questions. I told them, you had a work emergency. Please, text me back. I left the event. I'm coming to your apartment. Natalie. Please, please, please. I read every message once. Then, I turned off my phone. The silence that followed was glorious. For the first time in months. Nobody was asking me to shrink. Nobody was asking me to wait. Nobody was asking me to blend. I crawled into bed, closed my eyes, and slept better than I had in a very long time. The next morning, sunlight leaked through my bedroom curtains in thin golden strips for a few seconds. I forgot everything. Then I remembered the ballroom, table 12, Daniel's smile, the empty seat beside him, and the memory landed like cold water. I reached for my phone and turned it back on. The screen immediately exploded with notifications. 46 messages, 12 missed calls, 3 voicemails, several texts from people who rarely contacted me directly. I sat up slowly and started scrolling. Most were from Daniel. Natalie. Please answer. I barely slept. Can we talk? I'm outside your building. Please don't do this. I love you. The words should have hurt more than they did. Instead, they felt strangely distant, as if they belonged to someone else's relationship. Then I saw messages from my sister Claire. Call me. What happened? Daniel sounds panicked. And one from Dylan. Your boyfriend just called me at 7 in the morning. What did he do? I almost laughed. The answer felt so simple now. He showed me who he really was. At exactly 1003 a.m. Someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 sharp knocks. Then another 3. I didn't need to look through the peephole. I already knew. Natalie. Daniel called. Please open the door. I stayed silent. I know you're in there. Another knock. Please. Just 5 minutes. For a moment, I considered ignoring him completely. But there was something I needed to see. I wanted to know whether he truly understood what he'd done, or whether he was only upset because things had gone wrong. I walked to the door and opened it. Daniel looked awful. His carefully maintained image had collapsed overnight. His eyes were red. Dark circles sat beneath them. His hair was messy. The expensive confidence he wore so effortlessly was nowhere to be found. Thank God. He whispered. Can I come in? No. His face fell. Natalie. Please. No. He stared at me for several seconds, then nodded weakly. Okay. For the first time since I'd met him, he seemed unsure of himself. It should have made me feel powerful. Instead, it made me sad, because this version of him was probably the most honest one I'd ever seen. I messed up. He said. Yes. I know I did. Do you? His mouth opened, then closed again. The hallway suddenly felt very quiet. Finally, he exhaled. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. You moved my seat to the back corner of the room. I know. You told me not to act like your girlfriend. I know. You introduced me to nobody. His shoulders dropped. I know. I folded my arms. Then explain it. Daniel looked away, toward the elevator, toward the emergency exit, anywhere except at me. Finally he spoke. People at work talk. So, you don't understand how competitive it is. Try me. He rubbed a hand across his face. Everyone watches everything. Promotion. Relationships. Friendships. Who spends time with who? People build narratives. Narratives. Yes. And your narrative couldn't include me. His silence answered before he did. That hurt more than any explanation, because suddenly everything made sense. The networking event, the hidden relationship, the missing introductions, The awkward excuses, the way he always seemed nervous whenever work and real life threatened to collide. You were embarrassed by me. His head snapped up. No. Then what? You make me happy. I blinked. The answer caught me off guard. You make me happy, he repeated. And I was afraid people would see that. I stared at him. The explanation sounded ridiculous. Then, he kept talking. At work? Everyone acts like success has to be your entire identity. Like ambition is the only thing that matters. Relationships become distractions. Commitments become weaknesses. So you hit me. I wasn't trying to hide you. I raised an eyebrow. He winced. Okay. Maybe I was. At least that was honest. I thought if people saw me differently, it could affect opportunities. Opportunities. The word tasted bitter. Daniel looked miserable. I know how bad that sounds. No, I said quietly. I don't think you do. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question that had been bothering me for months. What about Vanessa? His eyes widened. What? You're always standing next to her in photos. Because she's my team lead. You never seemed worried about assumptions then. His expression changed. A flash of realization. He finally understood what I'd seen. What I'd felt? No, he said softly. It wasn't like that. Maybe not. There's never been anything between us. That's not really the point. His shoulders slumped again, because now he understood the actual point. It wasn't Vanessa. It wasn't the promotion. It wasn't office politics. It was that I had spent 18 months adjusting myself around invisible rules he kept creating, and every adjustment had benefited him, never me. I loved you, I said. The words surprised both of us. Daniel's eyes filled immediately. I love you too. Maybe, he flinched. Maybe you do, Natalie. But people don't protect what they love by hiding it. His face crumpled. The hallway felt smaller somehow. More intimate. More painful. Because for the first time, neither of us was arguing. We were simply telling the truth. And the truth was worse. I can fix this, he said suddenly. I'll tell everyone. Danielle. I'll post about us. I'll bring you to every event. I'll introduce you to everyone. Danielle. I'll do whatever you want. His voice cracked. Please don't leave. There it was. The bargaining stage. The desperate attempt to negotiate consequences away. But the problem wasn't the gala. The gala was merely evidence. The real problem was what the gala revealed. A pattern. A value system. A choice. And once someone shows you where you rank in their priorities, it's very hard to unsee it. You made a decision, I said quietly. I know. You chose your image. I know. You chose your career narrative. His eyes closed. I know. You chose yourself. Tears slid down his cheeks. I know. I swallowed hard. Because despite everything, this wasn't easy. I had imagined dramatic breakups before. Angry ones. Loud ones. This wasn't either. This felt like attending the funeral of something that had once been beautiful. Then now I'm choosing myself. The words landed between us. Final. Unavoidable. Real. Daniel stared at me. I could actually see the moment hope disappeared from his face. No, he whispered. Natalie. Please. I felt tears threatening too, but I held my ground. We're done. The hallway became completely silent. Even the distant elevator sounds seemed to disappear. We can work through this. No? I'll change. Maybe you will. Then give me a chance. I shook my head. People always say they'll change after consequences arrive. His breathing became uneven. Please. I hated hearing him sound like that. Hated it. because part of me still loved him. And loving someone makes their pain feel personal. But staying with someone who doesn't value you is its own kind of pain, one that lasts much longer. Daniel reached toward me, instinctively, desperately. I stepped back. The movement hurt him more than any words. "I love you," he whispered. I believed him, oddly enough. I really did. The problem was that love wasn't the issue anymore. Respect was, and respect had been missing for a very long time. "I hope you figure out why you did this," I said. His eyes filled again. "Natalie, goodbye." "Daniel." Then I stepped inside my apartment and closed the door. The first knock came seconds later, then another. "Please." I leaned against the door and closed my eyes. "Please don't do this." More knocking, then crying, then silence. 10 minutes later, I heard footsteps retreating down the hallway. The sound faded, then disappeared completely. For the first time in 18 months, Daniel Hayes was no longer part of my future. And somehow the emptiness that followed felt less frightening than the life I'd almost accepted. Over the next 3 days, Daniel tried everything. Flowers arrived at my apartment on Monday morning, a massive arrangement of white roses and lilies. The card contained only 4 words. "Please let me explain." I left the flowers in the hallway. By evening, someone else in the building had taken them. On Tuesday, a handwritten letter appeared beneath my door. I recognized his handwriting immediately. The same neat script he'd used in birthday cards and little notes tucked into my suitcase before trips. For nearly 10 minutes, I stared at the envelope. Part of me wanted to read it. Part of me wanted to know what he would say when given unlimited space to explain himself. Instead, I dropped it into a kitchen drawer, unopened. Some conversations had already happened. Nothing written on paper was going to change them. On Wednesday, Dylan called. "Your ex has officially entered panic mode." I smiled, despite myself, as he called me twice. "Why?" He wanted advice. I laughed. An actual laugh this time. "And what did you tell him?" "The truth?" My smile widened, which was that if he needed instructions on how to treat someone with basic respect, he was already too late. "Sounds like you." Itre. We talked for another 20 minutes before hanging up. Afterward, I stood in my apartment, staring out the window. The city moved normally beneath me. Cars, people, life continuing forward. It felt strange. For weeks before the gala, my relationship had occupied so much emotional space. Now it was gone, and the world hadn't stopped. A week later, Daniel posted something on social media. A black background, white text, 1 sentence. "Sometimes you don't realize what you have until it's gone." Several mutual friends sent screenshots. Apparently comments appeared almost immediately. "Are you okay? What happened? Everything all right?" The post disappeared less than half an hour later. Someone told me people from his company had started asking questions. For the first time, Daniel was receiving exactly the kind of attention he'd spent 18 months trying to avoid. I didn't feel satisfaction, just irony. The following Wednesday, Daniel showed up at my office. He had never visited before, didn't know my routine, didn't know the layout, didn't know which floor I worked on. The receptionist called my extension. "There's a gentleman here asking for you." I already knew. "What does he look like?" The receptionist described him. "Definitely Daniel." I looked across the warehouse floor. Forklifts moved between aisles. Employees discussed shipments. Work continued. Real work. Not optics. Not appearances. Just people doing their jobs. "Tell him I'm unavailable." A pause. "Would you like me to take a message?" "No." The receptionist understood immediately. 5 minutes later, she called back. He left. Thank you. That was the last time I saw him in person. But news traveled. Mutual friends talked. Coworkers talked. People always talk. Especially after something falls apart. About 2 weeks after the gala, I stopped at a coffee shop downtown before work. I was reading emails when someone approached my table. Natalie. I looked up. A woman I vaguely recognized stood there. Dark hair. Friendly face. Then I remembered. Jenna. She smiled. Yeah. Jenna worked with Daniel. We'd met briefly months earlier at a party. Magnificent? I hesitated, then nodded. Sure. She sat across from me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she took a breath. Can I ask what happened? I almost laughed. Apparently, everyone wanted to know, but there was something sincere about the way she asked. Not curious. Concerned. So I told her. Not everything. Just enough. The gala. The seat change. The secrecy. The breakup. Jenna's eyes widened gradually with each detail. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Wow. Yeah. That's worse than I thought. I raised an eyebrow. What did you think happened? She looked uncomfortable. Daniel told people there was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That's how he described it. I shook my head. Of course he had. A misunderstanding sounded better than the truth. The truth required accountability. Jenna stirred her coffee slowly. He's been struggling. I remained silent. She missed. Jenna stopped herself and laughed. Sorry. Old habit. I almost said, she. I smiled slightly. Go ahead. He's been struggling. She repeated. Missing meetings. Forgetting deadlines. Snapping at people. I looked out the window. The information didn't bring me satisfaction, only sadness. Last week, he got passed over for a promotion. I turned back toward her. A promotion? Jenna nodded. A big one. What happened? She shrugged. Officially, nothing. Unofficially, he's distracted. Everyone can see it. I wrapped both hands around my coffee cup. That's not my problem. I know. Jenna nodded immediately. And honestly, I don't think anyone blames you. That surprised me. Really. She laughed. Nathalie. He moved his girlfriend to table 12. When she said it out loud, it sounded even worse. Fair point. Jenna smiled, sadly. I think he knows he messed up. Maybe. No. She shook her head. I know he does. We sat quietly for a few moments. Then she stood. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. Thank you. She smiled. Take care of yourself. You too. After she left, I stared into my coffee for a long time. Not because I was reconsidering anything. I wasn't, but because hearing an outsider confirm what happened somehow removed the last traces of doubt. I hadn't overreacted. I hadn't misunderstood. I hadn't imagined things. The relationship ended because it needed to. Weeks turned into months. Spring arrived. Then early summer. Daniel's social media became private. Mutual friends mentioned he had started therapy. Someone else said he'd taken a leave of absence from work. Another person claimed he was trying to rebuild relationships he'd neglected over the years. Maybe all of it was true. Maybe none of it was. Either way, it was no longer my story. I focused on my own life, my friends, my family, my career, the parts of myself that had quietly shrunk while I was busy fitting into someone else's version of success. 3 months after the gala, Dylan convinced me to take a weekend trip to Portland. We spent 2 days hiking trails, eating from food trucks, and wandering through neighborhoods neither of us had seen before. On the final afternoon, we stopped at a bookstore. I was browsing the travel section when my phone vibrated. Unknown number. Normally, I ignored those. For some reason, I opened the message. Nathalie. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Really sorry. I was wrong. I let my insecurities destroy something good. I hope you're happy. I stared at the screen for a long time. Long enough for Dylan to notice, everything okay. I looked up, then back down. Then, I deleted the message. No, I said. A small smile appeared. Everything's great. That evening, Dylan and I sat on a rooftop bar overlooking the city. The sun was setting. Orange and pink stretched across the horizon. People laughed around us. Music drifted through the warm air. For the first time in months, I felt completely present, not stuck in the past, not replaying old conversations, not wondering what I could have done differently, just present. Dylan raised his glass. To better choices. I clinked mine against his. To better choices. As darkness slowly settled over Portland, I thought about the woman who had sat alone at table 12. The woman who spent months convincing herself that compromise was maturity, that patience was love, that invisibility was temporary. I felt proud of her, not because she endured it, because she finally stood up and left. Some people spend years trying to earn a place in rooms where they were never truly welcomed. I almost became one of them. For 18 months. I kept adjusting myself around Daniel's fears, making excuses, waiting for him to become ready, waiting for him to choose me publicly, the way he claimed to choose me privately. But dignity isn't something another person gives you. It's something you decide to protect. The moment I walked away from table 12, I stopped asking for permission to matter. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. And eventually, I wasn't even sad. I was free. And freedom was worth far more than any seat at table 1.